Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our next session after lunch. Hope you all enjoyed the yoga. It's always great seeing Frank on these events, and thank you, Frank, for your support. So, before I hand over to the next speaker, I'm just going to do a very quick introduction. So, our next speaker is Maz, who has a background in computer animation and 20 years' experience in various global digital marketing roles where he helps corporate businesses fulfill their objectives. Now, what Maz is going to speak about today is the power of curiosity and why this is the most powerful thing you have within yourself. So, before I hand over to Maz, we're going to shoot to a quick video and then he will take it away with his presentation. As always, questions at the end, so please post them in the Q&A box at the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll be back later to direct them towards Maz. Enjoy.
Touchdown confirmed. Receive online.
Reality is we live in a time where the machines are getting smarter every day. They can do more math, and they can certainly outwork us. But we have one massive advantage that they don't have. It's our curiosity.
Curiosity allows me to learn every single day, and I don't know what I'm going to learn on that given day.
Highly curious people are in greater demand than ever before in modern economies.
Technology is replacing routine work. So curious people, intellectually curious people, people who are capable of learning throughout their career, of asking questions, good questions, are the people that are going to do better.
Be curious, not judgmental. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Maz Rahman. Delighted to be speaking to you guys today. Really honoured to be asked by the Comms Hero team to do a presentation on curiosity and how that can be such a powerful tool in your ammunition when it comes to being a marketing professional. I'm just going to share my screen so I get into my presentation. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Okay, hopefully you guys can all see that. So basically, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I believe curiosity can play such a huge part in enabling you to become very good in your marketing role, but also kind of exceeding expectations when it comes to dealing with customers and thinking outside of the box, but also putting yourself in an environment where internally with colleagues as well, you can create a fantastic environment where curiosity can play a huge part in helping you to succeed more with using different ways of working with colleagues as well. So my background is creative visualization and computer animation, and I've been kind of working across various industries for quite a few years. This allowed me, and I've been very fortunate to have quite a few really challenging positions, but allowed me to grow and kind of develop opportunities in different areas. So back in 2016, I decided to come out of the corporate world and I set up my own business, which is called Dynamo Kings, and that's allowed me to work with some really interesting clients across various sort of projects, and mainly around curiosity. Actually, when it comes to finding alternative ways of delivering solutions for their customers, but also how I can bring something a little bit different to that objective. So I want to start by getting you guys to think about curiosity, because this isn't something that we always consciously think about. This is, everybody has this in their makeup, but you don't really think about it and how it can help you in business and in life in general. So ask yourself that question initially. Are you a curious person? Back in 2018, I was invited to do a speaking event in Vancouver for a client. And this is where the whole kind of topic and sort of keynotes I started talking about was curiosity. I launched a brand called Feeding Curiosity, and I was preparing, getting ready. 2 days before I was going out there, somebody sent me Harvard Business Review's front cover, which is what you're seeing on screen right now, and it was the business case for curiosity, which was almost like I'd kind of had this done in advance, but actually I was delighted to have that with me to be able to then talk about that, and I adapted my presentation. But yeah, if you get a chance to have a read of this, it's a really interesting perspective of how curiosity has played such a huge part in improving companies' adaptability and performance when it comes to working with common goals and achieving objectives beyond the expectation of what the company is looking for. So in my opinion, and just the experience I've had, it's the most powerful thing you own. It's about asking questions and continuously asking questions until you get to the point where you reach a solution that not only meets your expectations, but also delivers beyond the expectations of your customers. We're all sort of, nobody doesn't have curiosity. We all, as human beings, are naturally innate to kind of to carry curiosity. So it's something we can, bring out and utilize in different ways. And there's different types, right? There's curiosity works with state curiosity and trait curiosity. So state curiosity is about kind of knowing why and asking those sort of those questions around what is it that, if you look in this example here, technology, how can we use technology to strengthen business relationships? But when you think about trait curiosity, it's more about how can I come out of my comfort zone? I'm used to doing things in a certain way, but what would happen if I did this? And I think one of the greatest examples of that is this guy, right? When he first launched the iPhone, it changed the way we function as human beings, changed the way the world works. And I think that came out of a kind of exploratory idea he had in his garage. And you can see how the world's a very different place now. So it's about thinking differently. And it allows us to also write our own stories. Now, I want to share like a very quick personal story with you around how curiosity kind of became a huge part of helping me shape my future around what I wanted to do when I first came out of the corporate world. Back in 2013, I suffered a personal tragedy where my wife passed away after a kind of long-standing illness. And it changed, I had two young children at the time, and it changed everything about my priorities in life and what I wanted to do next. And also, what did the future look like? So I was really, I was unaware of my curiosity. I was unaware of what that could do for me as a person, not just as a father of two young children, but also as a professional. And what I wanted to do was to create a legacy that would kind of just connect with what my late wife stood for and everything that she was about. And childcare was something that stood out to me, massively, right from day one. So in 2016, I founded Zizou's childcare business, and we launched a daycare, and that's been going ever since. But since then, we've also then, through my curiosity, I've launched a brand new book for the childcare business, and it's the first childcare book to be launched for any business in the world and in that particular industry. And then we also launched a foundation, and we're continuing to create legacies around that. But I would have really struggled to have the ideas and to think about what happens next if I wasn't conscious of how curiosity can make a huge difference in helping me to make decisions going forward. To ask all those questions I had when I first suffered the tragedy that I suffered in 2013, to be able to understand what the future looks like, and how that sort of positions itself going forward. So yeah, it made a huge difference to me, and it kind of helped me very much from a marketing perspective. How do we present this brand? How do I understand the target audience? I'm not familiar with childcare, but I'm going to be really curious and understand exactly what's involved to go into a business that I was uncomfortable with. So for me, it kind of, failure was not an option at all. It became a huge learning curve to always think about an alternative way to do business, and also to market something which an industry that it was new to me. And again, without that, I would have really struggled to go forward. So it's led us down some incredible paths as well. If you think about some of the greatest inventors in the world, Einstein, when he talks about, in a very humble way, he talks about not having any special talent, but he's just passionately curious. I think obviously, when you look at some of the things that he invented, and some of the things that he talks about, again, without his curiosity, which is what he says himself, he would have struggled to kind of come up with some of the most amazing inventions that he came up with. So when you think about that whole sort of process and everything else, and when you think about the internet, and Sir Tim Berners-Lee, when he talks about when he first launched the internet, it wasn't what it was, wasn't what it is today, but you can't see the future because it's much bigger than the past. So look at the iPhone. When we talked about Steve Jobs, his classic quote was, out of curiosity comes everything. And again, that led him to create something which then became the next stage. We're talking about an iPhone 14 today with all the new features, and we'll continue to evolve with all the technologies that are coming out through a culture of curiosity, through the way the guys at Apple operate and function. Even a rover that kind of explored Mars, that NASA sent out, they actually called it Curiosity. Maybe some of you remember that. And the guy who was the chief rocket scientist actually created a culture within his whole team of curiosity and collaboration, which made a huge difference to think about how far they can go to explore, and the ideas that they had around what that would do going forward as well. So for me, curiosity is a huge factor in helping marketers ideate new solutions. In terms of creativity, you're going to fuel creativity by continuously looking at better ways of working, and how you can target those customers. And then it becomes a basis for a strategy, a marketing strategy that will help drive engagement as well. And this will be towards your brand, but also towards how you position that product and what kind of offers you send out there, because you're putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, and you're trying to envisage what it would be like from their side, and you're innately curious about how that can make a difference from how you position your approach to selling to that customer as well. So curiosity marketing is, maybe some of you have heard of those words. It's a kind of a buzzword that's becoming more and more apparent now, but it's a very important sort of side of strategic direction when it comes to using marketing to allow you to get closer to your customer. It's all about understanding their world, and what it's like to be in that industry in order to get closer to that product. There's a lot of things around incentivization and enticing the customer. How can you kind of think about what would be interesting for that customer, and how would you think of a theory of enticing them to a way forward as well? You need to resonate, right? So you need to understand, how do you appreciate what the customer is experiencing, and what are their, if they have a customer journey which is for their customers as well, you need to think about that, closing that loop, and understand what that looks like in order to help them with their solutions. And then again, connection is a massive factor in all of this. how can you connect with that customer authentically so that they can feel like they can trust you, and there's a real common understanding and an appreciation of how you can mutually help each other. So curiosity is all about opening your mind. It's about just exploring new ways of working, but also thinking outside of the box. How can you think outside of the box to drive new invention, to drive new marketing ideas, to drive alternative ways of working, and to be a differentiator? We all want to be different. We don't want to be doing the same thing that every other competitor is doing, but you can use this in a very powerful way to explore avenues where it gives you that leading edge when it comes to a solution, or whether you're going for a pitch or anything like that. So for me, curiosity marketing gives you that competitive advantage without question, because of the fact that you're doing things in a very, very different way to your traditional marketing techniques. It'll allow you to enhance your messaging when it comes to how you speak to a customer, how you deliver those messages to a customer directly. It will also allow you to build authentic relationships. So those relationships that you build are no longer artificial and, sort of, you're my customer, I'm the vendor who's providing you with a solution. It's about building that trust. And if you think about some of the tools that are available today, it's very, very important that you do your research and understand exactly what that customer's looking for. What are they interested in? Not just from a professional perspective, but outside of work. They may share things across their channels, which we're gonna talk about in a few minutes. But that's significantly important when it comes to really building that drive around strengthening those relationships with customers. And then if you get that right, I think it's a natural progression to think about, an increase in sales, an increase in revenue, and you're going to have a successful marketing strategy that you can adapt for every single customer. That whole approach can be tailored to any industry. And of course, every industry works in a different way, but you can always have the foundations of a marketing strategy that appeals to everyone. There's nothing in this that is just specific to one industry. The whole sort of philosophy and the principles of what you're doing here are absolutely going to resonate with those customers, and it's going to make a big difference to the way they think about your brand as well. So the world has changed, and when you look at how everyone is adapting to new ways of working, it's changed the way we function. If you think about this being a norm now, where you've got people operating machinery in a remote environment using sort of VR tools, to being in a hospital and you've got physicians operating complex medical procedures. This is actually a visual from Philips, and they did a collaboration with a leading hospital in the US to kind of build a platform that allows you to actually see complex parts of the human anatomy, to be able to perform medical procedures, which I think is incredible, right? And it's actually happening today. But again, none of that would have happened if there wasn't that whole curious mindset around the possibilities and where that could take them. If you think about how cars are designed these days, you can actually, these guys, professionals, BMW do this already. You can actually start to create and design vehicles before any physical parts have been used at all. So you can actually have the makeup and have people walking around a car. A lot of the designers can kind of get a feel for the kind of approach they want to take for different models, even before anything physical has been created whatsoever. Think about education. For those of you who have children, it's such an important side to helping children to really stimulate their imaginative thought process, where we can actually bring environments to them and make them feel like they're immersed into those worlds. Again, this example here is talking about planets, but if you talk about ancient Egypt, I did a project a couple of years ago with some primary school students where they felt like they were there with Tutankhamun, and they were part of the whole gamification process. Just makes a massive difference to the way they engage with subjects that might have in the past been relatively boring for them, but now they actually feel part of it because they're immersed in that environment, because they've become curious. So curiosity allows you to explore new technologies. And again, this is an environment I'm used to working in, where I work with different teams from around the world, and we use VR headsets to help us to get closer, so that we can actually be in our home offices or wherever we're based in different countries, but actually feel like we're together in a common meeting space. And it's a really interesting way of working, where you can whiteboard and just kind of build ideas where you're physically actually not together, but actually virtually you are, and mentally it just brings a lot more creative thought process around that whole curiosity around what the possibilities are and where you want to go going forward. This is an example of a platform that I've launched recently for the commercial interiors industry. And again, through my curiosity, I've done my research and understood the customer journey and what do customers want to see? How do they want to interact with certain spaces? And they can't physically be everywhere. So could they go to a virtual showroom and be able to change the interiors, the walls, the floors, the furniture, to make important decisions around what that room should look like as they start to build out new buildings. And it's a really important side of how the world operates today. So using curiosity to learn more about the target audience through social selling is really important as well. And by social selling, I'm talking about getting on that decision maker's radar, and that's before you pick up the phone. And there's so many things you could do to understand that buyer's journey. And I do this a lot with my clients, where when I'm training salespeople on how to function in the 21st century, as with all the tools available to them. If you think about that line between sales and marketing, it's very blurry now because of the likes of LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and some of the other tools that are available to them. They can do a lot of research. They can understand their customer very, very well before they make any contact with them whatsoever, and they can start to slowly engage with what that customer is interested in, what kind of projects they're working on, and find the right time, the right moment to engage with that customer when it makes sense. So yeah, this is a slide I use with a lot of customers, and it really helps them to kind of connect with what they could be doing before they even talk about a sales pitch or whatever they want to sell to one of their clients. So it's about being curious and not judgmental. And by that, when we're curious, we do make a lot of assumptions. We do think we know what's best for a customer. But I think that curiosity needs to lead to more questions. I think we have to come to a conclusion and a solution with the customer, because then it feels more inclusive and the customer feels like they've been part of that decision-making process. That's something which I think, again, is really, really important when it comes to strengthening those relationships with customers directly. So I'm just going to kind of close out by talking about, what my tips are for helping you to feed your curiosity to become a really powerful marketing hero. Ask a lot of questions. Ask about why you're doing this, and do not be content with somebody saying, "Oh, well, we should do this because I think this is the right way to do it." Really, kind of get to the bottom of exactly why it's important to go down a certain path. If you're building a marketing strategy, there's so many different angles to that, and everybody should feel engaged and part of that process in order to make it robust, and all the research has been done. Immerse yourself into a culture of curiosity. If that doesn't already exist in the business you work in, really encourage your bosses and your colleagues to really think about that as a really good way of generating ideas and thinking about what that looks like with like-minded people. So you need to be working with people who think similarly to the way is the right way to deliver a customer solution. If that doesn't work, you want to kind of slowly separate yourself from that environment and actually get yourself to a point where it makes more sense for you to achieve excellence in what you want to achieve to be a really powerful marketing professional. It's really important to be authentic, and I think authenticity makes a huge difference when it comes to how a customer looks at you. If you're trying to be somebody you're not, customers can see through that straight away. And I think it's also important to be comfortable with failing and starting again, because that's how you learn. That's how you become that professional that you want to be, and delivering those solutions that you think would eventually get you to the point where you've done an exceptional job for your clients. Technology and digital, as marketing professionals now, many of you on this call will absolutely be using different tools in different ways, but we've got to embrace those tools, and we've got to encourage our customers to embrace them in the right way. Not every tool is for every customer. We shouldn't be asking every customer to use VR if it's just not right for their industry. But I think it's really important to ask them to become curious about what the possibilities would be, and again, coming up with new innovative ideas that would allow them to explore the possibilities. And then lastly, I would encourage you to continually experiment and validate, learn, and perfect, just to kind of get to the point where you've done the due diligence, you've looked at all the different avenues of finding the right solution for that customer, but then you've opened up opportunities to work on other projects going forward. So it's not just a kind of a single-minded approach for a customer that just does what they've asked for. Let's deliver something which allows you to open up new thought processes where it can be beyond what they've asked for. So remember, curiosity is the most powerful thing you own. Okay. So let's fast forward 40 years. Now imagine, you guys have really used curiosity in the most powerful way, and you've achieved everything you need to achieve. Let's look at what you guys would be talking about as you get gray, as you become gray and old, and you find a situation where you're reflecting on your successes of using curiosity in the digital world. Can you play video 3, please?
When we were young, the internet was f***ing awesome.
You could get away with anything in those days. I built an app that did absolutely nothing.
When I told people I was a community manager, they really didn't understand what I was doing.
People talked a lot about things going viral, but I cannot believe for 1 minute that no one figured out that the whole damn thing was rigged.
Mira, chequea esto. El hombre de los tatúes me dijo que era un guerrero pacífico, pero cuando lo escaneé, me mandó directo a un video de un gato vomitando.
My friend Lisa shared everything she was eating. Like, who cared? It's a f***ing donut.
Well, I posted funny photos all the time. The best one was when Jay fell flat on his face, passed out at this dubstep show.
You know I lost my job because of that photo.
Oh, you waste case.
Fantastic. Well, that's the end of my presentation, guys. Hope you've taken something from it. Any questions, please fire away. I'm going to be here to take any questions you guys have. So yeah, no problem. Over to you, Lee.
Great presentation, Maz. Very interesting, and love the final video there. Yeah, lots of laughs going around there and emojis for that section. Just one thing before I dive into the questions. When you mention curiosity, I always think of the phrase "curiosity killed the cat,"
right?
And I think of it in a negative context. But the way that you've just spoken about it, it actually goes to show that thinking of it, being curious in the right environment, within work and in the right context with the right people, can actually, aid you massively. And by thinking of it in a negative context, like I have been, it's kind of holding someone back from what they can be achieving, right?
Right. And it just goes back to, I know it sounds bizarre, but I said I discovered my curiosity back in 2013 when I suffered a personal tragedy in my life. Everybody has this. And I think just with what you've described there, you never look at curiosity as as something that you would use in work or in a personal situation. But when you subconsciously actually start thinking about it, it's such an important part of life on how you operate and function as a human being. And it's made such a difference to the way I function. Running your own business or two businesses, in my case, there's no way I'd be able to survive and do what I'm doing if I wasn't utilizing that to its, putting it to the forefront of what I do. And again, I can see people have put some great comments about social networking, such a huge factor, when I talk to clients about how they can do so much on those channels and online before they pick up the phone and speak to any customer. It's a massive part of society, but a huge part of professional working as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree with that. And just on your presentation, you mentioned the comments that we've got through. One of the quotes that really seemed to resonate with people on here was "Be curious, not judgmental."
Right.
And again, I love that quote. And yeah, it resonated with people on here.
I was actually I'd taken it out just because of the time, I think. But if you guys haven't watched the Ted Lasso series, there's a fantastic clip where Ted Lasso is he's playing darts, and he actually quotes the Walt Whitman quote, and he talks about how people used to judge him all the time and not ask questions and just assumed he wasn't good at darts. And then he showed how good he was at darts when they actually just took an interest in what he was doing. Yeah, there's so many examples. I think when you look at a situation where asking questions is always about educating yourself about what is the best way to function with a like-minded person, but also delivering solutions for customers. If you're not going to ask the customer the questions you need, you cannot assume you know what they're looking for. And it's it goes back to building a website. You can't build a website for a customer unless you fully understand exactly what they're interested in, what they're looking for. That whole process before you design anything is about their brand values and what they stand for, and really getting close to what they're looking for. And I think people do that without being conscious of the fact that they're actually being curious about the customer's journey and putting themselves in their shoes, which is really important.
You kind of need to be curious about what the customer wants and ask them in detail questions. And what you might think is a minor question actually can have a great significance to the building platform of what you then go on to build for the rest of the website.
I love Asif Chowdhury's question there, where he says, "What if you're already great and old?" And he's put hashtag asking for a friend. Right. Okay. Yeah. And I see where that's going. So, yeah, I think the last video was literally, there's never an age limit, is there? There's never an age limit. You can discover your curiosity if it's your last breath. I think just bring it to the forefront of your thinking in life. And this isn't just a conversation about professional networking or how you use it in marketing. Actually, in marketing, it is very powerful. You can see that. I'd encourage people to just research curiosity marketing. There's a lot of really useful information about how you can bring that into the way you function as a professional. But just bring that into your life. Bring that into your life and think about, people have mentioned the kids. Kids naturally are always curious because they want to know what's next. And once you give them what's next, they want to know what's next after next.
And they want to know why, and why that.
They want to know why. And I think there's something about bringing that kid out of you that you keep asking those questions to the point where, it can become irritating if you're continuously asking those questions, but get yourself to the point where you understand what it is you're trying to achieve. And then you'll feel content with the fact that you have covered all angles, you've done your due diligence, and you've experimented to the point where hopefully you've delivered a satisfactory solution that the customer is really happy with as well.
Great. So before we kind of wrap up the session, we got a question in from Gethin Evans, and they've always struggled with channeling their curiosity. Once they found an answer, they're curious to find out the next thing. So again, like you've just been talking about, how do they prevent their curiosity from impairing the focus?
No, that's a fantastic question, because again, just going back to what I just said there, you can get to the point where you're asking too many questions, right? You get to the point where you're not content with getting reaching a point of conclusion where actually this works. This is exactly where I need to be. I think I would say there isn't a danger of curiosity damaging your approach to a journey with a customer or a strategy that you're building. But I think you've got to utilize all of the angles from a curious perspective, where it comes to think of what it's like to be a customer. Think of it through a customer lens right from the beginning. You can't do that without being curious, and you can't do that without saying to a customer, I need to ask you some questions. What is it that you do with your clients, and how do you function with your clients? What is it you're trying to sell them? What's important to you? I know that it sounds obvious, because I guess a lot of marketing agencies would do a lot of that already. But I think there's something quite clever about taking those concepts and putting them into your own approach and making sure that's at the forefront of thinking, and actually holding a session with a customer to say, we're going to go through a curiosity session because I'm curious to learn more about your business, and make that become a subject matter when it comes to how you come up with a solution that the customer feels like they've actually been part of. And I always find customer solutions where customers have had a lot to input and provide feedback on are the most successful ones, because they don't feel like you've told them what they should be doing. They've actually felt part of the journey. So that's where I think you cut the line, where curiosity becomes part of the customer journey, and where the customer actually starts thinking in a similar way to you. And it's that whole thing around surrounding yourself around people who think in the same way. And it goes back to not just for customers. We've talked a lot about customers, but a culture of curiosity within your own environment, the place where you work. If you're working with people who are always negative, who don't want to think outside of the box, who just want to do exactly what it says on the tin, it can be demoralizing. We've all been there. We've all been there where it's difficult to be creative and to think about, how you can do things very, very differently to what your competitors are doing. And I would just say, in a very subtle way, surround yourself around those people who can allow you to grow and you can allow them to grow, because you're going to have a lot of things in common, and you're going to find you'll be in a position where you'll both be successful because of those reasons.
Cool. So I hope that answered your question, Gethin. Great answer. One other question that we've had through is from Stevie. Why do we lose our sense of curiosity as we grow up? Does the educational system knock it out of us?
I think, yeah, again, we tend to be a little bit more reserved, right? When it comes to being more curious, where we don't want to, we get to the point where we should start to research our own answers. We should start to actually find solutions in our own way. Instead of being, as a child, you tend to ask the questions to your parent or to your teacher because you're just desperate to know everything about the world and what's going on. And again, it's a very good point about the education system, how we're educating as from students to being professionals. We go through those stages of schooling where self kind of serving our needs becomes more important than actually asking more questions around the people that we're trying to serve. And I think we have to find that nice balance. I wouldn't say the education system is totally demolishing the way in which we do ask those questions, but we've got to find the right balance between how we educate ourselves through learning with other people. And it's about engaging ourselves with those people to get to where we need to be.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that, Maz. It's been a great
Welcome.
session, very interesting and informative. I'm sure everyone else agrees that is on the platform right now. So just so everyone knows, we're actually going to go to a 25-minute networking break. We will be back at 1:35 with a panel session, which focuses on the ethnic minority comms and journalism professionals. So if that's something that you have come here to see, don't forget to click and join that session at 1:35. So again, thank you so much, Baz, from everybody at Comms Hero. I'm sure you can see all the comments coming in as well from all the audience. But thank you so much for your session. It was great, and we hope we'll all see you soon.